All right. Welcome, everyone. So, listen to this. I'm going to start off with a couple of passages from this historical Balaam that I was talking about today. Notice the title of this, it's called a combination. This combination begins, "The misfortunes of the book of Balaam, son of Beor, a divine seer was he. The gods came to him at night, and he beheld a vision in accordance with El's utterance. They said to Balaam, son of Beor, so will it be done with naught surviving. No one has seen the likes of what you have heard." And then Balaam, according to the narrative, tells people around him what's going on. He says the following: Balaam arose on the morrow. He summoned the heads of the assembly to him. And for 2 days he fasted and wept bitterly. And then his intimates entered into his presence. And they said to Balaam, son of Beor, "Why do you fast? Why do you weep?" And he said to them, "Be seated, and I will relate to you what the Shaddai gods have planned. And go, see the acts of God." And then it goes in, and Balaam describes a celestial vision and its aftermath in the land. This is really interesting material. It comes, like I said, from these engravings, from the inscription that was discovered in the land of the children of Ammon. This is where it really happened. Now, the question for historians like all of us has to be, one option is that the historical Balaam lived at a later period, and we don't really have to date it. Honestly, we don't have to date it at any time because we just know that this was a local hero. So maybe the inscription and the tablets, anything that talks about Balaam that was discovered east of the Jordan, it could be that these items are reflecting a local hero. I started to say hero cult, but kind of a, it's like if you go to Graceland to see Elvis, it's where you go to get all your cool stuff. They probably sell trinkets and keychains and coffee cups with your name on it. In the ancient world, you could go get a piece of pottery, bring the kids, take a family vacation, go to the land of Ammon, and they'd say, "Look, over here we have the words of Balaam, our famous, prophet," and so forth. It could be something like that. Or it could be, and this is where I'm presently leaning in my research, that what we actually have going on in this narrative, in these stories that we find, is a reflection that the story of Balaam could be from a later period, and it was incorporated into the narratives in the priestly source in the book of Numbers. But those are just a couple of different ideas. Whether a person wants to entertain any of that, what they can think about is the sensible parts, and Doug wrote a note on here, maybe some of you would like to talk about this. Prior to this week, I've studied these Torah portions for a long time, and there are times where I think, what else can I figure? What else can I find here? I pray about it. I read it carefully. I mark it up. But it's only when this week that I saw a couple of things that I don't remember ever bringing these up, and that was mainly about Petor and about the land of the children of Ammon. Those two items, I think, are quite important in understanding who the historical Balaam was. So if some of you have questions or comments, please jump in, because I want to definitely get into the basics of the story, but dig deeply into these other things. Look, we find stories about Balaam in the New Testament too. Now, of course, by the time the New Testament comes around, there's a very negative assessment of Balaam. In fact, we see very soon that the whole tide shifts on Balaam. And I don't know what I'm going to do for next week, but I might get into this a little bit, because if you're not shocked, if you read the story of Balaam where we are right now, if you read the story of Balaam and you're not shocked in chapter 30, 31, where Balaam is killed, then I don't know what to say. Because everything in this Torah portion is, he's not doing anything wrong. In fact, over and over we get the story that he asked God, do you want, let me go. The guys from Balak come to get him, and they say, hey, Balak wants to hire you to curse Israel. And he said, well, you guys hang around, spend the night. I'm going to pray about it. And he prays about it. And remember, he comes back and he says, God says, you can't curse what's blessed. And so you're wasting your boss's money. I can't go back with you. This is the Ross version. I'm giving you a little bit more street version. And so then later in the story, he's told, no, go ahead and go. And then, so he decides to go. He loads up on the donkey. He's riding along, and then the donkey sees the angel of the Lord, who's got a sword out to whack him. And this whole story is odd, right? Because it's almost like Balaam is saying, what, you with the sword, do you want me to go or you don't want me to go? If you don't want me to go, I won't go. I spent all night in prayer and sweat in the garden. I added that bit for emphasis. And you told me to go. So I go, and you got this being with a sword trying to kill me, and it's caused me to overreact. I'm mad. I beat my donkey and all that kind of stuff. The story just seems very odd. There are details of it that don't make sense. But I tell you what, the one thing you don't get in the narrative from 22 to 24 of Numbers is that Balaam is a bad guy. Now, I know later people are going to go, yeah, but we don't know his intent. He was really part of the reason that Israel stumbled, so they had to put a sword to him. I promise you, we're going to get to that. Right now, we've got Clody from the good land of, I don't know, West. Let's just say, I was going to say California, and I said she might not want me to say where she's at. I'll just say the West Coast.
You never know with me.
That's right. So what's going on, Clody?
Oh, I enjoyed the class, and I enjoyed the class with Torah Pros with you and Jono. And I believe that this is the way that you in both classes are approaching this is really new to me. But it does give voice to some of my thoughts, because it was always, as you know already, I always wondered, why do we have only twice animals that talk?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the snake in the Garden of Eden, and then this donkey.
Yeah.
And one of the other questions was always, why did God told to Balaam, you won't go, and then go? And then he sinned because he wanted to go after God telling him you may go. And the other one is, why did the Israelites kill the guy?
Yeah. Oh, I get it.
Yeah. But then again, I parallelized. Parallelized.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made a parallel with the story, because one of the Zoom, I think, I don't remember the name now, sorry.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking why was Balaam killed?
Yeah.
And I remembered the Reuben and Levi story.
Uh-huh.
And how Jacob told them that they were really rushed on their decision of killing those people. Let me check, because I lost the names now.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, for the people, what they did to the people of Shechem.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And we have that also on the Moses scroll, right?
About we don't about the people of Shem.
Of Shechem.
No, I don't believe that that's in the Moses scroll.
My memories is failing me. Good.
That's okay.
And
That's all right.
and yeah, and one of the other questions that I had, which please help me. What is a cartouche? Eric Castaneda was trying to explain to me, but I didn't understand a thing. Sorry.
Yeah, let me make sure that I put this in the right term. Let me see. It is, as I understand it, like a. Let me just read what it says: an oblong or oval enclosing a group of Egyptian hieroglyphs, typically representing the name and title of a monarch. So, typically, when you see them, it's almost imagine like a necklace or something you could wear, and it's
Okay.
shaped like this, and then it has walk like an Egyptian, picture of the
Good.
water, and
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
And
Symbols,
this
different symbols.
that's right. And this one was a cartouche representing this Queen Tusret, it's called, which dates to roughly, I think it's called the 19th dynasty, and roughly 1200 BCE. So that's found right
So
there.
this threat is from Egypt or from the
Yes.
land. Okay.
Yes, it's from Egypt. And this is what's interesting. In the land of Israel, in the whole Levant, all in this area, we find evidence of Egypt's presence at various times in history. Their strength and dominance sort of waxed and waned. Sometimes they were very powerful, sometimes not. So, for instance, at one of the digs that I participated on at Biblical Tamar, we have evidence that is dated roughly to 920s BCE, where there is a wave of destruction that many scholars, or some of the scholars who've looked at this archaeology, would associate with Egypt coming in at that time. So we see sometimes evidence of Egyptian presence in the land. And this, we see it also across the Jordan, right? So you see it in the north and the south, sometimes east of the Jordan, and that's what this is evidence of. So remember when I talked about the discovery at Deir Allah, one of the things that was mentioned was in the layer, it appears from what I read that in this layer of destruction is where they discovered this cartouche of this queen, which might indicate that the Egyptians are the ones. You could see how an archaeologist would say, well, let me see. The evidence suggests that there was a battle and the Egyptians might have destroyed this place, whatever.
So yeah, I find it really fascinating the fact that the archaeology conflicts with the Bible almost.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, and it's something that makes me think a lot. And as for the languages, I believe that with what you were saying with Petor and Peshar,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is always happening. That is happening all over the place and all over history. If nations exchange cultural goods or even material goods,
Yeah.
they will exchange glossary as well. So it's something that you cannot get out of it. And if you see loaned words or words coming here and there in these nations, that doesn't mean that one of the languages is the mother.
Yeah.
That means that all the languages were exchanging in between them. as it is happening with English is one of the the best examples, because you see that English has many Latin words and Greek words.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, is this English?
Right.
Yes, it is, because it is so rich now because of all the exchange in between globally. Yep, these were my thoughts. Thank you
Well,
for
look,
the class.
Karen just posted a picture of like a cartouche. If you look in the
Very good.
chat, yeah. So there's some good stuff going on here. Let me. I'm going to let other people talk, but I'm going to say
Thank you.
I love to admit when something never occurred to me that was really obvious, because it's well. First of all, it's being honest. Let me tell you, I saw Mary Ann's comment about Petra. I never even thought about that. And yet, I've been to Petra not many, but a couple of times. I've been several times. And the association of the name PTR, that root Semitic, Pe Tav Resh, with Petor and the land of Ammon, I didn't make that connection. And now I'm going to delete the video that I posted this morning and redo the whole thing and claim that I found that, Marianne. And I saw other people claim they saw it too. So,
Can I do the opposition here? Petra
yeah,
in Greek means
means rock.
the stone or
Yeah,
rock. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And we see that, but it's still the idea. We say, well, Petra is it's a Nabatean place and it's named after the Greek. But my question might be, which came first? So for instance, if you're in the ancient world and you go, especially in the land of Israel or east or west even of the Jordan Rift, and you go, what is this? You go, well, it's a rock. But this is a land of inspiration. So we're going to call this Petra. And then I'm just making this up. And then people began to associate rocks and, who knows? But it is interesting nonetheless. And
like the coming of Jesus.
yeah.
But you hit with one stone, two birds. I understand. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you did there. You hit with one stone. See how you played that? That's good. All right. Well,
didn't
look.
do it on purpose, but yeah, okay. I'm smart.
Jump back in anytime, Clody.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, hello, Lori. How are you and Justin doing today?
Very well.
We're good, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
I hope you don't mind. I'm going to turn a little bit. I know that we're all in different spots, and so sometimes when we participate, it triggers different ideas. So,
oh yeah, no problem.
I'm going to go back a little bit because I'm still thinking a lot about Thursday's Torah pearls and about why the donkey stopped and in that part of the story. So I got actually really quite focused on the donkey. Okay.
Okay.
And so I had this idea, and I thought, could God have been angry with Balaam for going because he disobeyed God by riding the donkey, when God told him to only do what I tell you? But God did not tell him to ride the donkey. So in the Bible, I did some searching and I found 6 notable donkey rides in scripture. Okay?
Oh boy, here we go. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay. All right. So I found 6. And in the 6, the donkey is usually a sign of peace, humility, divine trust, and obedience.
All right.
So the donkey's the one who saw the angel and stopped. Balaam did not see the angel. The donkey also becomes the one who speaks the truth. So with that, I have the idea that the riding of the donkey is really a symbol of peace. But Balaam was heading on a journey to oppose the king. And so his journey is an opposite to the symbol of peace. His journey was to not bless Israel, but the king wanted him to curse Israel, right? And so therefore, riding a donkey, a symbol of peace, towards adversary might have been contradictory to God's message.
All right.
And this, I don't know if you want to know this, but I'll tell you. The 6 notable donkey rides that I found in Scripture.
I think I can guess. Is it down the Mount of Olives?
Well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you it's Abraham when he was riding with Isaac towards the mountain to sacrifice Isaac. Balaam, King Solomon, when he was symbolizing his legitimate succession. The prophet of Judea, when he was riding to deliver a divine message. Mary, when she was pregnant with Jesus, and Jesus, when he entered Jerusalem. Okay. And out of those 6, only Balaam did it against God's direction. Okay.
All right.
However, the prophet of Judah is the only one that was killed, even though the donkey was not killed, the prophet was, and that's because after the prophet delivered his message, he was supposed to return back without eating or drinking, and he was supposed to return on the same way he came, but he was deceived and he broke his commandment with God, and therefore his death was a result of his disobedience.
Yeah. Yeah, that story's always puzzled me too. There's some interesting stories. No, I like the way you're thinking, because whenever we deal with a story such as the story of Balaam, he's known. I loved Seth's thumbnail, by the way, the picture of the donkey and how surprised he looked, kind of scared, because he saw the angel. But that he's known as the one who rode the donkey. So I didn't actually think to look at every donkey ride in Scripture, but that's the way I generally do think, to look for, is there something going on here? Because we have to try to figure out, and I can appreciate what you're doing there, Lori. We have to try to figure out, why is it that the angel is mad? I mean, what's going on here? Because he seems, at least from what we read in the narrative, he seems only to be doing what God has permitted him or allowed or encouraged him to do. He seems to be following it to a T. Now, what happens, though, is anytime Scripture is like this and people have questions like we do, people have a tendency to add to the Word of God. This is what I see. And it opens up the door for all sorts of non-biblical rabbinic stories, Christian stories. People go, oh, I have a question here I can't answer. Well, let me tell you what really is going on here. There is this story, and they come up with what we call a midrash or whatever. Here's another example of something we read where it seems like God is mad, but we really don't know why or what's going on there. In fact, I'm open to it because it kind of, I did think about this. Let me open up to, it's in Exodus. Let me find it. Exodus chapter 4. Yep, Exodus chapter 4. And verse 24. And it shall come to pass, and it came to pass on the way at the lodging place, that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Hashem, Jehovah, met him and sought to kill him. Then Zipporah took out a flint and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at his feet. And she said, surely a bridegroom of blood art thou to me. What is going on? Who met them, and who is the meter mad at? Is it God? It says Jehovah met him and sought to kill him. Who's he seeking to kill, the boy or Moses? And why, let me ask you this, why didn't Moses circumcise the boy to begin with? We already know that rule, right? So There are lots of questions in some of these biblical stories. Now, here's what happens. We read that and we go, well, inquiring minds want to know. I'm gonna tell you what really happened, and we build these whole stories. What you did is different, so I'm not putting you in that category. You're trying to think through logically what's going on here, and let me look at this. And I was thinking too, Zechariah 9:9. Behold, your king comes to you, lowly and riding upon a donkey, the colt of a she-ass or whatever, which is then picked up by the gospel writers. And obviously, there's some stuff to talk about there, but we'll do that. We have a series coming up to get into that. I'm looking forward to. All right, well, good stuff. So your idea then is that perhaps what we get right under the surface is the fact that he's using a beast which is generally associated with peace to sort of oppose the message of this king. All right. What
There's
now?
the other, so
Go ahead, Justin.
just with the donkey itself, I don't know if anybody knows this, but like kind of being a farm boy myself, donkeys are a natural protector as well. So it's like a symbolism of protection. I don't know if anybody knows that.
Okay.
Like if you got other animals, you put a donkey in the pasture, and the donkey act just like a guard dog as well.
Oh, really? Take care of them.
Oh yeah.
I've heard of donkeys.
Oh yeah. You can get an attack donkey if you want.
Yeah. I've heard stories where a certain donkey attached to a family and would stomp like venomous serpents out, and protect.
They will. They'll stomp a coyote to death.
Man, interesting. So Balaam is noted as someone associated with this donkey. In fact, that's the way that I phrased it in the Moses scroll is kind of stuck in my head. When I was writing, I wrote Balaam of talking donkey fame. And that's the way he's known. You say Balaam, you go, oh, the guy that had a talking donkey. And that's the way he's known. But he's known, by the way, in these texts written on the wall at De'er Allah in this inscription. I don't recall seeing anything about his donkey, but it is interesting that the story is there, and it's the same. It seems to be the same guy. And by the way, I love that land east of the Jordan. That it took me years before. I think I had been to Israel 18 times before I ever made it to Jordan. And no offense, Valentine, I love Israel, as you know, but when I tell you that when I hit that land, when I crossed into the land of Jordan, part of it's because of the story of the Moses scroll and all, but I was floored. I mean, I don't know how to say it. I know Sue is probably on, our dear friend Sue Wyatt. She lived there with her husband. But something about that land really speaks to me. And archaeology, Clody mentioned how sometimes the Bible and archaeology meet in some ways, some sort of a contentious way. So for instance, speaking of Moab and archaeology in the Bible, think about this. You remember the story in 2 Kings 3, where you have the story of this battle between the kings of Edom and Israel and Judah. Remember, Jehoshaphat and so forth. And there's a battle with the king of Moab named Mesha. And for 2,500 and some odd years, the only account of that story was from the book of 2 Kings. And then we find on August the 19th, see, I'm a real nerd. This is the kind of trivia I have in my brain. August 19th, 1868, a minister by the name of Klein, Augustus Klein, finds or is shown by his Arab tour guide come this way. I want to show you something that no other Frank has ever seen with his eyes. And he shows him this black basalt inscription on the ground there. And it's the story of Mesha. It's slightly different. There are like 18 points of congruence that I've already identified between the Mesha Stela and the account in 2 Kings chapter 3. But again, there are differences too. So what do? I think that it is natural. We even see divergent stories in the biblical text. I can read stories in Kings and compare those stories with the same story basically in Chronicles, and I find differences. And there are often underlying reasons for the differences. Here's one. If you're on the Israel side and you're describing, you go, hello, Jehoshaphat. I'm with I-24 News. I'd like to ask your opinion. How did it go in the battle with Mesh? And he goes, well, yeah, let me tell you. We had the prophet with us, and the prophet told us that this was going to happen, and it happened just like he was told. And then the reporter said, but hang on, you said you left. Like all of a sudden, the story that we read this morning in the news says that you just left all of a sudden. What happened? Well, we just got tired of fighting. And you read the version on the stone inscription, the Mesha Stela, and it says, we beat Israel's tail and chased them back across the border. Well, that's probably what happened. It probably is what happened. Now, and you go, well, how could you say that? Well, read the account in 2 Kings 3, read the Mesha Stela, and they both tell the same story. Israel goes over there, they get in a fight, they duke it out for a little while, and then they run back home for some unknown reason. And it says something about the wrath of God. Anyway, differences don't always scare me. In fact, I think that sometimes the truth is in the middle. You have different stories. You have different vantage points. So I really hope that we'll continue to find things like this, look for archaeological evidence and compare that with some of the biblical stories, right? So that's what we're looking for here. All right. Now, Justin and Lori, I'm going to move to the next person. If you have something else, jump back in, throw your hands in the air. James Brumgard, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well, Ross. How are you this morning?
I am doing so well.
Actually,
I don't know.
afternoon now.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
right. That's all right.
Hey, yeah, the story of Balaam has always fascinated me. But one thing that came out, and I guess I first noticed it when you and Jonah were talking about the incident, where let's see, in Numbers 22:18, and Balaam answered and said unto the servants of Balak, if Balak will give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the word of Jehovah, my God.
Yeah.
And that my God part, I don't think I ever noticed before. The fact that Balaam or Balaam, was considered Jehovah as God. And which makes me wonder, he's like, I'm comparing Balaam to like Jethro.
Yeah.
Because Jethro seemed to be aware of Jehovah as well. And the Midianite people seem to have an awareness. Doesn't mean they always obeyed him, but they certainly knew of him as a god. And maybe that's the problem. It wasn't the God, as far as how they worshiped.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, I was just reading through that, and then I started to read through or look ahead a little bit. Why did Moses say that the Israelites should have their revenge against Midian, and that attack that occurred that actually caused the death of Balaam? But then I started reading through some of the. You have to sort of sort through there because there's a couple chapters that seem like insertions that follow here about different holy days and things. But He's talking about, or did they have, I don't remember where I will look at that. Maybe it was number 33. Let me look. Because it talks about that I can't curse them because Jehovah, my God, his God is with him. But then I realized that his there is referring to the tribes rather than to Balaam. I was a little bit confused on that one, but I found the one I cited first, verse 18 of 22.
Yeah.
So those are the thoughts that I had on that. Is there, I guess, you say Jethro was a prince or a priest of Midian. That doesn't necessarily mean that he had the whole tribe under his control. He was just one of the principal men of Midian.
Yeah.
I think that's how that fits all in there. But that's an interesting tribe, because like you've said it before in other classes, Midian is one of those peoples that it's not necessarily a territory. It's a group of people that are nomadic. So, but it looks like they're closely associated with Moab.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep. Hey, another thought that came to mind. You mentioned how you like the land east of Jordan.
Yes, sir.
And what came to mind to me, right, as you were saying that, was so did Lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully the same story won't play out that way. But let me ask you this. You mentioned Midian. Can I jump back on that just for a minute?
Oh, sure.
Because usually Saturdays, as I complete, like when I finish and I tell you all, have a beautiful day, I love you, go away, and I'll go. What I do then is I begin to think about what I'm going to teach the next week. And, because I want to start working on it on Shabbat. I mean, I just roll into the next week. And, and so I've kind of had this in my mind because I know what's coming next. I know the story of Pinchas. I mean, but I also want to get into a little bit more of this, what you just brought up. Midian is a very interesting story that people don't know well at all, and it's tragic. And let me give you a couple of things I just jotted down while you were talking, and not because you mentioned all these things, but here's what I just jotted. This is what I might work on for a class next week. I wrote Apho. Where is Midian? Right? So that's my first question. Then I wrote, think about this. I didn't write all that, but just in bullets. A Midianite brings Joseph into Egypt, which ultimately leads to all of Israel being in Egypt. Moses flees Egypt, Pharaoh, and meets a Midianite priest, falls in love with one of his 7 daughters, one of the hot girls at the drinking trough, as is often the case, a good Jewish boy, he's out, he's thirsty. And there he finds a beautiful woman. And as a lot of them do, he marries outside the family. But either way, right? I'm joking a little bit, but not really. So he marries a Midianite. And then a Midianite, he's in the land of Midian on the west side, the way I interpret it, the west side of their grazing territory. And he meets God when he's still with the Midian family. And so he's introduced in a way to the God of his people through Midian. And then when the children of Israel leave, he's got this Midianite woman. He's got children which are half Midianite.
Yep.
His father-in-law, he tries to convince his father-in-law, and I think he might be successful, but the narrative doesn't want us to know that. But he asked the Midianite father-in-law, Jethro, whatever his name is, he's got 4 or 5 names, Ruel, Hobab, but he asked him, would you be our guide? And I think a Midianite did help guide him through the desert. And so then you get all of that good stuff that the Midianites did, and then you're like, we need to kill them. I mean,
Right.
that's a shock in the story. What are you talking about? You're going to kill them? Don't you think that it seems like Zipporah would say, "Honey, that's my family you're talking about. You're talking about killing the Midian. I'm right here, Moses. I can hear your plans." You know, no, no, it just something strange.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah. So that's why I was looking to find out, okay, avenge, yourselves of the Midianites. And I'm going, I don't remember the Midianites, bushwhacking them anywhere,
yeah.
like the Amalekites and all that. But yet they have to go do that. That was the puzzle too. But the only thing it says on the matter of Peor is one of the reasons for the vengeance to
Hmm.
be done. And then I think also the fact that the Midianite women were causing the Israelite men to go astray. So that's the only two things I
Well,
could come up.
one other point. Let me just bring this up. And I love the Bible. This is my fun time. So you have to forgive me. It's not irreligious. I don't want people to think I'm sacrilegious. I'm not, even though some of you are going, I don't know, you're on the line there. As Clody said, you're dangerous. But here, imagine just this is what I think about. This is the weird stuff I think about. Imagine word getting back to Moses that some of the boys in the camp have fallen for these Midianite women. And I'm giving the pause on purpose. I can
Look in the mirror.
imagine Zipporah's got her hands on her hips because she hears Moses saying, how could you fall for those Midianite women? I know they're a little bit floozy, and they dress a little, they're not proper. And he looks around and you see Miriam looking at him like, what did you say? You're, you're, you remember our time together at the well there, Moses. So I think there's something going on here, and we have to be honest with these texts, and we have to think it's almost started singing, who is it? Alanis Morissette, isn't it ironic? It's very ironic that Moses is talking about, he's told, I want you to go avenge Israel on the Midianites, because they ran off with these Midianite women, and there's Zipporah making him breakfast. I don't know. Strange. We're going to get into this. We're going to jump. I don't know if we'll do it this week, but we're going to be jumping knee deep into this whole Midianite connection. So anyway, what else, James?
That was it.
All right, brother. Okay. I think we've got time for one more question before we let our YouTube audience go, but I don't want them to miss. Todd and Angel, jump in there, guys. What you got?
Or they're going to have to miss us because we're going to waive our turn to Valentine since he's up late.
All right. All right. Let's do it then. Let's get a report from the Galilee and just let him skip the line. Go ahead, Valentine.
Oh, you guys are so nice. Those are some sweet people right there.
They are.
Okay. All right. Well, I got to say that was really good. Earlier you were talking about Ma Tovu Yaakov. That's a real popular song. People used to love to play that all the time. I still love it. That was earlier, and I liked that, what you said about that. Jethro also is very big in the Druze community.
Absolutely.
Druce. That is their prophet. Man, you want to talk about a party kind of thing? They celebrate once a year, and that is big stuff. I
love the Druze, by the way. I love the Druze.
I
love
do
Druze
too.
food. Druze. I like those pants the guys wear. I've got a story.
Oh
for
yeah,
that later.
those big baggy
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
If you guys haven't seen those before, it's like wearing a pair of pants that not hanging down, but they are made to hang down by the knees, and it's and the little white caps and the women with the cover on their face, and they're some precious people. I like them a lot. Good friend of ours is a Druze police in Nazareth, and he's been a friend of ours for years, and just sweet people. He always brings us some wonderful food too. We were actually in you and Tabor probably know G's up in called G's, like Jis.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And they have these wineries up there, and I was up there yesterday with a friend of ours, And that is such an amazing place. Talking about Druze, what's Druze, and it's Arab, Muslim, and some Christian, and also Jews live there. So it's it's a really beautiful town. If you go up there and you look out over that,
I do it every tour. James and I do it every tour. I know.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, we were at the Dalton Winery. It was so good. Had a rabbi waiting on us. I felt like,
wow.
It was like, okay.
All right. Cool.
Well, anyway, okay. Hey, I liked everything you said, and I made some notes because it was really interesting, especially the Dir Allah down there. Found in 1964 with the clay tablets, and the KI 312. That was fantastic. I liked that. Hold on. Sorry. I had grabbed the wrong piece of paper.
It's all right.
And I wanted to say real quick, talking about curses. People don't think too much about the whole idea. Sometimes we get upset, people, when we're in traffic or somebody does something maybe wrong we don't like. But be careful with curses because it's bad business. Just get it out of your head. Don't do it. It doesn't matter. You see things like if Hashem says you curse them, I'll curse you, and all this. Yeah, that's true. But just stay away from cursing people. It's just not good business. And so anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to say. Here in Galilee this week, it's very beautiful. Oh my gosh. I got to ride in a car yesterday. I haven't driven in 10 years, although I have a driver's license here. We didn't buy a car. We just go everywhere on bus or train. And I like that a lot. But we went in the car yesterday and drove up, got to look at Spot and all this stuff. It was just,
that's wonderful.
I love that.
That is wonderful.
It was wonderful. Yeah. And somebody who drives, you don't want to drive with Russians. I'll just tell you that right now. If you come to Israel, don't do it. You will be sorry. They tailgate. I don't know how I haven't been in an accident with my friend Constantine, but Baruch Hashem, I'm still safe.
Now you're, by the way, I was going to ask, you're an artist anyway, aren't you?
I'm an artist.
And so when you said you went to Tzafat, I can imagine that is the art capital. I love walking through the little old part of town. In fact, I see James on. That's one of Lori's favorite places, if I'm not mistaken. It's just absolutely beautiful there. So, we love it.
It is beautiful. It's interesting because I sent Dr. Tabor a video from Spot like a year and a half ago, and that the very next day, the same spot we were standing on making the video was hit by a rocket.
Oh,
the exact same spot. I was like, oh, gee. But wild stuff happens. But that poor art area is kind of closed down, and that's really a shame.
Yeah.
And we were down there not that long ago and just surprised there were like 2 people open.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, that is so sad. They had the most beautiful art over there. I'm not represented over there, but they're nice people. Who knows? Maybe they're willing to negotiate now.
Yeah, well, and just so you know, I think a lot of people, when I think about how tourism has really hit the ditch, unfortunately, because of what's going on. I have many friends in the tourism business, and including shop owners that I've become very close friends with over the years. And I know them, and I miss them. And so we'll continue to pray. I always think about the opening lines of Lamentations, where, it's like, how lonely sits the city that was once full of people. And in this sense, I think not only of Jerusalem, but all of Israel, particularly in the north, which has been, as you unfortunately know more than any of us, I think a lot of those places, even when some tourism returned, there was a hesitancy to go into, particularly in Metula and clearly up in the north. But I pray that current direction of things is indicative of a time when we'll be bringing busfuls of people once again. And they'll be going to those art studios, and we'll say, hey, look, here we are, and Valentine, look, his name right here. He made this. He's got his own shop here in the north.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, things happen. I'll be glad to see you guys when you all come up. And if you're in Spot, let me know. I'll come up and we'll have coffee or do something. It's a beautiful place. I don't even need an excuse to be up there and sit at the Baghdad Cafe or one of these places and have coffee. They're wonderful. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you. And Todd and Angel, good to see you. And thank you for letting me get ahead there. That was so nice of you guys. And there's Dr. Tabor. And I'll stay around for a little bit. It was good talking with you. And I really liked what you had to say, Ross. Good stuff.
Well, good. Yeah. Well, okay, so now, Todd and Angel, do you need to go next? Now, I can't remember all these details. Did you have something on your mind, or yeah? All right, so let's.
I was just going to mention what you and Jono were talking about, and I never caught it, and that was about the angel of the Lord basically being Satan.
Oh yeah,
that I never caught that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as many times as I've read it, that just never occurred to me, and I was like, okay, the adversary.
Yeah.
Now I see it. Before just over the head.
That's right.
But I just thought it was fascinating. That never occurred to me.
Yeah, it's interesting that in that passage twice in the Balak Torah portion, it says that the angel of the Lord, for those of you who may have missed that, it says he stood l'Satan, for Satan. And as we would say, but Satan is not a name. It is, as Todd just says, it's an adversary. So if someone, and that's what the name means. Look, we're going to get into a gospel study before long, and we're going to entertain a lot of these ideas that most of this viewership knows, but that's kind of where we're going with this. So, yep, interesting passage, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's all I had.
All right, well, you just jump back in if you want to in a little bit. We're going to say goodbye to our wonderful YouTube audience. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're part of the Yachad, please jump over to the Zoom call. We don't want you to miss a thing. We've got probably a couple of hours left of this fun. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.